Hello, am I audible? Nanda, let me know if I can start. Okay.
Namaste, Rajvi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I, I, I
Even
need
you might.
permission to share.
Namaste, Rajvi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I need the permission to share screen. I need permission to share screen. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah. Welcome, Rajvi. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
So we have been gathering since few days, enjoying our practice time, learning time, especially eating time. Just we finished our banana leaf lunch.
Okay.
So I just need to give you a hint. Anytime
Okay.
they can go to sleep.
Okay.
But this is a time we are going to remember Guruji. And Rajuji has spent a lot of time, not just on the mat, off the mat as well. So I'm sure this 30, 45 minutes not enough, but through her, we can recall the experience with Guruji and also some insights which we don't know much. So we want to listen stories, but please make sure you are all not sleeping. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Rajvi.
Okay. So thank you all, and thank you, Nanda, for inviting me. It is challenging always post lunch to talk, and it is more challenging to listen. So we will not hear or listen, but we will see. So I'm going to start about, talking. Oops, yeah, I hope my screen is visible. We're going to remember Guruji. And how do you remember something that has been around you all the time? Because Guruji may not be physically present in front of us, but his presence is always there. So with that, I'm going to show you where it all began. And this is the house where Guruji was born in Belur. And I just wanted to give you an idea of the background in which. So we've all heard Guruji was born in Belur. This is the place he was born. And this is the place where he actually spent his life. So this little green house that you see, these are two houses. The one on the right is where Guruji spent first 6 years of his life. And this was in 2003.
Excuse
So
me,
you can,
Rajvi. Sorry.
oh, you have to translate.
Yes, there are
Okay.
simultaneous translation going on.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
two,
yes,
three
yes.
translators. A little bit, I know, a little bit slow down. It'll be helpful.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Okay, yeah, yeah. So, okay, so we will start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to restart. We are going to be talking. Oh, 1 second, something's coming up. Okay. Station mode. About Guruji, remembering Guruji, and it's Guruji is not physically present around us, but we have his presence with us. So this is the house where it all began, the house where Guruji was born, and this picture was taken in 2003. Now, this is where Guruji spent his early days, So this particular house that you see on the right side, there are two houses, and one of this was his. And this is where a little shack where he spent first 6 years of his life. This is where he spent the early days. Now I'm going to show you the plight. So you can get a perspective. These are the pictures of Belur houses in 2003. So when you see this in 2003, you realize that what it must have been in 1980. So you just get to know that there was progress. So how bad or how undeveloped, underdeveloped it must have been in 1980. And sorry, something's going fast. So this is just to give you a perspective of the background in which Guruji was born. Also to understand that 1918 was the year they had the pandemic. And our generation very well knows what a pandemic does. And to add on, Guruji's mother had actually was born during the pandemic. I mean, sorry, Guruji's mother gave birth to Guruji during the pandemic. So this gives a perspective of his health. And being very poor in health, he incidentally happened to meet his brother-in-law, who was a yoga master. And just from this picture, it can tell us the aura with which his brother-in-law Krishnamacharya ji was. You can see that power, the medals on him, and this is Guruji's elder sister. And seeing how poor health Guruji was, he sort of asked him to come and stay with his sister because he used to travel across the country delivering lectures. And here is where, and this is at the tender age of 14. And this is where Guruji's tryst with yoga started. He actually spent only 2 years with his brother-in-law studying, so-called studying yoga, because you can imagine how much philosophy or anything can be ingrained to a 14-year-old who is also sickly. And it is in these conditions, despite spending only 2 years, having no other guru in his life or no other teacher, and we do know that Guruji learnt a lot on his own, he always respected Krishnamacharya ji as his guru. So it was not that he was just a teacher because he initiated him into yoga and he remained his guru. And that is something which we really need to appreciate. Then that was yoga and he was sent to Pune. Incidentally, Guruji stopped studying at the 10th standard at his high school because he failed in English and there was no scholarship available. So he gave up education because there was no funds for education and he started practicing. I'm sorry, something lights seem to be running. And he started his education, with his own practices. So he would practice, and even those of us who are new to this subject can see the flexibility as there, but you can't see the precision which you see in the Guruji's poses later. You can see he went into Ekapada Shirshasana, and I'm sure the teachers amongst us will say, oh, the leg is not straight, there is curving. But this is how he started his practice. These are pictures from 1941. And then he continued, and it was that he came to Mumbai, and I live in Mumbai. Guruji started coming to Mumbai to teach some saint once a week, and later it turned into classes. And then there was this very famous violinist of that era who was interested in yoga. So yoga, I would say he was interested and he was the guest of the Prime Minister of India. So that says it all, that one of his students who sort of introduced him because Menuhin was interested in yoga and he started teaching him. He invited him abroad and the conditions in which Guruji lived in Pune were quite frugal in those days. He didn't have much money, a big family to support. And you can see the royalty with which he was treated when he went abroad. So when he taught the Queen Mother of Belgium, you can see the very fancy rooms, etc., compared to the frugal house in which Guruji lived. Sorry, my pace is okay. I'm sorry, so sorry to the translators. So, okay.
Thanks,
So,
Rajavi.
yeah,
Every every one sentence a little bit past will be helpful.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to okay. So this is how he started teaching. Menuhin, in fact, asked Guruji if he could stay back in Europe. I mean, any ordinary man would have jumped to this opportunity, because teaching abroad, living this quite a luxurious lifestyle, Guruji decided that no, I will not leave my country. And he went every year to teach. He would go and teach there and always return to India. So he remained very closely connected to his motherland. He continued teaching. Um, I'm going to put it into translation mode. So, so I, yes, so I can hear when the translator stops, then I can say my next sentence. Okay. So every year he went abroad and came back to India. Now, now you can compare the house. Are the slides visible? No.
No,
Huh?
not visible. You have
Okay.
to share the screen.
Yes, yes. So I just showed you the image of, so I showed you the image of Guruji
Yeah.
teaching in the very, very fancy house of the Queen Mother and the house in which Guruji taught. So this was the house in which Guruji taught. The front room was where he taught in this house, and behind was the kitchen and where people slept. But he continued to come back. Now his wife felt, Amma, that we should create a little hall, and this was the idea. So this was supposed to be the idea, and they did a puja, bought land, and as destiny would have it, 2 days later she passed away. And her idea was that the house be, that whatever Guruji was, his livelihood you know, was because of yoga, and therefore, since Amma passed away 2 days after the puja, they decided to have the institute in her memory. And thus the institute came up in 1975. And this is 50 years ago. Now, when the institute started, there were not many students. There were not, you can see very few students, and even people wondered why he made such a big decision. So if you think back, Guruji started teaching, few people came to his house. They had the courage to build such a big institute. For some students, they wondered why did he make, why did he make such a big institute? A- And then you see the numbers started increasing. And then this. And after that, what happened? And you wonder how how did this one man with the subject of yoga reach across the world? No marketing, no advertisements, no franchises, pure purity, and his what we would term today as organic growth. Do what is right, do your duty, and there you see the results. Now, if we go further, this is Rimi. Today, as we are now celebrating the 50th anniversary. Now, if we look, who is Guruji K.S. Iyengar? Yes, yes, he's a yoga practitioner, no doubt about it. He was a teacher. Yes, we all know that. He wrote 30 books in his lifetime. And here I want to say that Light on Yoga was a book which he wrote in English language, and a language in which he failed in his school days. It makes you wonder, how did he write it? In fact, somebody even asked me, who writes Guruji's books? And they're Guruji's books, he writes them. So imagine somebody who is just not even gone to high school, writes books in the English language for the native English speaking people. And the book goes into publication again and again and again for 50 years and still going. Now, so we call Guruji an author. Now, how did he attract the people to the subject of yoga? He gave thousands of demonstrations. like a performing artist. There was a flow in his practice. So he was an artist. Now I want you to think of the photographs in light on yoga. Now imagine non-digital where you cannot see the photograph immediately. The lighting so that there are no shadows. The angle from which the asana has to be portrayed. So a film was developed and then you see the results. 600 such photographs. So do you call him a photographer as a professional? Then he was a diplomat. So every country sends an ambassador to another country to develop good relations between different countries through the subject of yoga. He, he became a diplomat, a representative of India to 1900 countries. About 40, 50 years ago, India did not have relationship with South Africa because of apartheid issues in South Africa, the black and white separation. Guruji said, I will teach, but it has to be a mixed class of people. Then do we call Guruji a healer? We know how many people, how many people who are suffering, not treated by not treated by modern medical science, have been treated by yoga therapy. So we call him a healer. Then he innovated and created, call him somebody who designed and created innovations with so many props. You call him a scientist. And I'll give you an example here. One day, Guruji told me, the practice of yoga changes one's DNA. So I looked little skeptically. How can you change the DNA? You know, but with respect, I kept quiet. But few years later, we have this entire science of epigenetics, which means that you may have the DNA, but its expression changes. And if the cell shape changes, DNA expression changes. So his words, he was indicating the effect. So I call him a brilliant scientist. Then he has his entire philosophy, which we can call Iyengar Yoga, a philanthropist who gave to the world so much. We can say he gave so much to Belu, gave so much to yoga, but many of the big institutes in the world, Iyengar Yoga institutes, have come up from the money he donated from his demonstrations. So if he went to a particular country and he gave a demonstration, he earned some money. He, he gave it back to them. That was his generosity. And then, if we look at the entire Iyengar yoga family in the world, we have a proper syllabus, we have a proper structure to form institutes, associations. How did he get people of so many different ethnicities, different minds, different thought processes, all work together? Like a family, we may have differences, we may argue and fight with our siblings, but we are still together. And that was our Guruji. Now I'm going to share with you some of his very unique attributes. He was so very simple. He was the same, very, very simple in his food, in his travel, never asking for anything. That I remember one of the teachers once saying that Guruji, you be, you behave like you're one of us. We should not forget who you are. Then he had tremendous discipline. For him, yoga is an anushasana. Now he traveled across the world. He never missed his practice. And it is not something he has said. The people who traveled with him, like Birju and Jawahar, that when he would be up in the morning by 3:34, But remember, there was no fanatism in his practice. Once he made a commitment, he honored it. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, he came to Mumbai every weekend. Now, Pune to Bombay in those days, when there were no expressways, it took 5 to 6 hours by road. There were Indian roads was not something we would be proud of. It was at that time, not today. Whether it was raining, whatever, he came to Mumbai. So we who attended the classes would never like to miss, because we would feel ashamed. He has come from Pune. We were not paying barely anything. He had his institute in Pune. And the saddest part is that when Amma passed away, which was which was on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, Guruji, Guruji was in Mumbai. So that is commitment. Then he had so much of empathy. He could feel the pain of others. So we, so when he would treat patients, it was as if he went into them and understood their pain. So I can go on. I know we have limitations of time. So, so I will even talk, the purity, of course, we see. And what amazed me was his efficiency in his work. So in his daily life, he spent a few hours practicing. He used to write his books, actually answer to all the mails, physical letters, plan things, take care of fights between his student children. And we never felt that he was working very hard. It was so smooth. And I'll give you an example. One day, he, he had only one secretary. Pandurang Rao was the secretary of the institute, and he had one. And there was this boy called Kumar who would help him with his. And one day you find that Guruji is sticking stamps on an envelope. And so one of the students saw, saying, "What are you doing, Guruji?" So he says, "Oh, Kumar is not there. So I am So I am sticking this. So the letters have to be sent. And this I'm talking in the year 2000 something. So that's simplicity. And so, you can imagine that he was never he was never dependent on anybody. And here I would just like to share with you one image. This is his creativity. Once a year we would go on a little camp to some neighboring hill station. And here you see him, he's showing, he wanted to show alignment. And you can see he has used a broom. We never carried our props with us in those days. So we didn't have any props. So some blankets, that was it. Here he wanted the student to bring the ankle together. So there was a broom around. He picked it up and put it there. But today we think we have to carry props. Our blankets, bed, blocks. Maybe, maybe tomorrow we'll create chairs which can be folded and kept in one bag. So that was his Guruji. Now, it's very difficult to talk about something which is which is present all around you. Something that you feel but cannot see. To me, that is something like that divinity. Something, something which cannot be expressed in words. And that is Guruji's presence. So he may not be physically present, but his presence is all around us. Now, Nanda, do I have some more time? Then I could share some more.
Yes, 10 minutes more, yes.
Okay. So now I would like to share, because the words of Guruji. So just now when we are talking or I am talking, we we listen to the words. But what did Guruji say? You should not just listen. His words are so powerful that over the years, the same words give us more and more depth. As we mature, we find more meaning in the words. So, a hand for a child, a hand for a biology student, and an anatomist differs. So now I'm going to share one of his quotes and some more. Yoga is like music, the rhythm of the body, the melody of the mind, and the harmony of the soul create the symphony of life. All you need to do is watch the film Samadhi, and you, because if the body only moves and the mind is not with it, the, the same movement may appear like a contortion. It can be very painful. You can see the pain in the eyes and face. But when there is a smooth flow, the same instruments create symphony. Now, Guruji said yoga should be you and you should be yoga. So there is no difference between you and yoga. You don't you don't do an asana, you become an asana. Now, what do I mean by that? Guruji never differentiated between, he was always in yoga. And, and I'll give you a very funny example. When he was in China for his last international trip, and he had taught a class in the morning, he was teaching Veerabhadrasan too. And then we came back to the hotel for lunch. Guruji barely ate anything, but he called all of us to his room and said, all of us will eat together. And Abhijata had possibly eaten a bite or two. And suddenly it struck Guruji how he can explain the students further. Because he must have felt that they have not understood what he was saying. So Guruji immediately asked Abhijata and told her she put her what do you say, while eating, she put that plate down and she had a morsel of food in her mouth, which she finished eating. And then she did Veerabhadrasan too. So obviously, she was not very happy about it. But that just shows for Guruji, all time was yoga time. Then Guruji said, for a yogi, the body is the body laboratory for experimentation and experience. So as teachers, we were told, never ever teach anything which you have not. Whatever it is, you cannot experiment on the students. And that is how the entire light on yoga has come from his own experience and experimentation. Another quote of Guruji: giving does not impoverish, withholding does not enrich. So, so you it doesn't mean that if you whatever you have, if you give, your container is going to become empty. I just told you about the institutes, how we donated. He never told us, because even a teacher has to earn a livelihood. Teacher has to live. But he said, give more than you receive. So, so whatever amount the student has paid, the student should feel that they have received much more. When when we had an earthquake in India in the year 2001, Guruji sent trucks and trucks loads of material to that earthquake hit place. All the mementos, all the shawls that he had received. And he didn't tell this to anybody. Some students saw it, and that's how we knew. Guruji said, body is your child. Look after it. The body is the temple. Keep the temple clean with yoga. So the practice should be so pure that that purity makes us feel oneness. It gives us that oneness with our surroundings. And therefore, he said alignment leads to health. But he did not mean alignment means that on the mat we are straight. Our alignment between our awareness in different parts of the body, the alignment of the body with the mind, our alignment of ourselves with nature and people around us. So, as a teacher, he came down to the level of the students. So he could align with our thoughts, our abilities, and lift us up. He did not just become flexible in body, but he was flexible in all aspects. So he could become one with nature. or what we would say a state of samadhi, where the individual consciousness becomes one with the universal consciousness. All of us are here in this world. We come, we come with our genes, we come with our nature. So what Guruji said was, what you are, what you are born with is God's gift to you. But what you make of yourself is your gift to God. So whatever circumstances we are in, we don't have to worry about that. They are there. Okay, this is what God has given us. This is what nature has provided us. But the practice can make us better tomorrow. And then when you say it's a gift to God, that is a sense of humility, a sense where our I-ness, our ego is subdued. And that is a gift to God. So I end my presentation.
Thank you very much.
I hope all of you are awake.
Yes, Rajvi. Thank you very much.
Okay? Yes. So I must thank them for
So,
keeping themselves awake.
yeah, I mean, like
So,
when we talk about Guruji, we can still can hear
yes.
different stories more and more. The hidden stories which comes from everybody who are connected with Guruji. So I want to ask you one thing. Almost 10 years now, Guruji is not around in person, but you spend a lot of time, right? I remember, like, you met and discussed with him for a number of things for a number of times. So what do you miss these 10 years as Guruji is not around?
Yeah, I didn't get your question. You said there was a question.
What do you miss of Guruji these 10 years?
To be very
Yourself
honest,
personally.
personally, to be honest, in the first few months or years, it was unacceptable. I would feel, because we took it for granted that he's going to be eternal.
Yeah.
So practical world would tell us that he's 95. And last month he was a little unwell. So a practical person would know that there is a physical end. But in your mind, Guruji has given life to so many people. So initially, I would say it was difficult to accept. But however, being in Mumbai, it always felt like he was there in Pune. So although physical presence was not there, it felt as if. So even today, it somehow feels like that. So sometimes when one is teaching, you may have something in mind to teach, and I realize I'm going in a different direction. And I think it is somewhere Guruji is directing me. And then you sort of see Guruji as a Purusha Vishesha. So he's present everywhere. So now you
Yes.
don't really feel that, miss that physical presence, but you surely miss those days where you just, went to the library and he was there, or him practicing in the class. So yes, those memories come back, and you just feel now that you were so fortunate to be there. So that's the feeling that is there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rajvi, to share that. So, any message as we join together, different language, different country, different time practice level also, from beginners to experienced teachers. Few words.
So I will say this is a relatively young community.
Do you see the? Do you able to see the screen?
Yes. So when I say young, I'm not talking in terms of age, because to us Indians, all Southeast Asians look at, and the Chinese all look 10 years younger. So I'm not talking in terms of age, but I'm talking in terms of, compared to the Indian yoga or Western, Iyengar yoga is relatively new. So this young community has a lot of innocence, a lot of curiosity, a lot of enthusiasm. So I feel that there's so much that can be nurtured. And that is something I think we should encourage and let this community grow. Second thing is, I find that there is, with whatever little I have taught in, say, in the, I feel that there is a little more subjectivity in the Asians. That there's a subjective understanding. I don't know why. May- Maybe it's cultural, or I don't know. So please let that grow. The sensitivity, the feeling, that all that experiences that you have, don't let an objective be an end. Just grow with it. So that's all I would say. Let's grow. Let's grow like we saw Guruji's King of Yoga grow. And we have our own internal growth. which will lead to external growth.
Thank you.
So that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you, Rajvi. So
Bye bye.
we'll see you in person sometime.
Yes. Okay. Bye bye. Okay. My apologies. My slides were running too fast. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That helps us awake.
Okay. Okay. Bye bye. Bye.